All right, we're back with Overtime with Dr. Michael Jacobs. Doc, a What's Up, Doc segment on the podcast. Great podcast this week, Doc. And so you got me thinking about injuries. And it's funny, too, because you talk to athletes like Adam or Mike Bordick or any of these guys, and they'll tell you that the last third of the season, everybody has some injury that they're dealing with. What's always fascinated me was what Ripken did for 2,632 games, and he could have gone further, but he chose to stop at that point. How remarkable is that to you, having worked with athletes, for so long, for somebody that could play that many games, and he's not DHing, he's at a really pivotal position in the infield.
It's extraordinary. And as you said, if you look back at Lou Gehrig, to keep his streak alive, he ran up and pinch hit occasionally and ran out of the lineup. He didn't play every day. Obviously, they didn't have DHs. But Junior played essentially every inning of every game.
Didn't he play like 10,000 straight innings at one point?
He played virtually every inning of every game for the majority of that streak. And he's a remarkable person. And there's many factors to that. Number one, and it's a Michael Elias quote I'm taking, is you can't change biology. And there's no question some players are just more durable. Jim Brown played in a racist era of football where he was getting hammered extra hard and never missed a game and probably never missed a down. And some of that's just biology.
Right.
In Ripken's case, I've always felt what was underappreciated about Cal is that he had a fantastic he has a fantastic baseball brain. His father educated him, Cal Sr., on the proper way to play baseball. And Junior did that. His form was always perfect. He's like a teaching manual in the field. He turned double plays properly. He got out of the way of things properly. He didn't showboat things. He didn't unnecessarily risk his body by being flashy, as you see a lot. And I think his perfect fundamentals always minimize the risk to him. And I think that's underappreciated.
He changed the position as shortstop too. Really, before that, it was the Belanger types, and a lot of the Central American athletes, the shorter, real athletic. What is he? 6'4"? He's a big man, right?
Well, actually, he's a little bigger than 6'4", I think. Yeah. But he's very athletic. But you certainly look quicker when you're Vizquel or Ozzie Smith. But Cal's very athletic and acrobatic. And among other things, he also, and I think this is largely true of Brooks Robinson, even though Cal pitched, I believe, in high school, he always saved his arm. If he didn't need a rock at the ball, he threw an average ball. If he had a jacket, he threw it hard. He always planned for the future and did exactly what needed to be done. And he didn't waste throws. He didn't waste anything. And I think that goes to his baseball IQ as well as his incredible inherent talent. And that's why I think he was one of the big factors in being so durable.
One of the more common injuries we hear about now is oblique injuries. Has that always been an issue with guys swinging a bat that fast and that hard that they would injure in there? But I don't remember hearing that. Did they call it something different when we were kids?
No, there's always been oblique injuries. I remember Mark Eichhorn back with Johnny Oates was on a great one when he got an oblique injury and missed a lot of time. I think the oblique injuries are a factor of today's
explain for people at home. Explain what an oblique injury is.
Chest muscles how they help rotate your chest, and they're part of your core that helps you get that incredible truncal twist. And in this day of informatics and relentless data collection, I think one of the things that's been discovered, and I make a bigger analogy, is look at tennis. If you look at the players who played in the 60s, and if you look at Jimmy Connors, Bjorn Borg, Arthur Ashe, they're chipping their forehand and they're using their hands and they're hitting the ball 80 miles an hour. Then largely with the Serena Williams generation, everybody started opening their trunk and hitting these open shots where you lag your arm and twist your trunk. And what that does is allow your bat speed or your racket speed to increase, and it puts much more stress on the rotational strength. And I think the analytics have shown that these truncal rotations are part of the incredible bat speed people get. So I think we're now teaching more of core rotation and core strength as opposed to, not everybody has Henry Aaron wrists or Willie Mays' wrists who can just flick balls. So I think as the analytics in the uh, uh, spin guns, I'm blocking on the name, have come around, people have changed their style of hitting a bit. And I think that has led to increased number of these as well as the increased weight training regimens. But I really think tennis is the best example of how all these tennis players have these gigantic swings, women included. And if you look at back in the 70s, Jimmy Connors is hitting the ball 75 miles an hour, and now they're hitting them 95, 98 miles an hour. They're remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, people don't know this, a lot don't, that Henry Aaron was only 6 foot, 180 pounds, and never hit 50 home runs in his career, but managed to hit 750,
We could get into the baseball side. That's one of the things that amazes me is that I've been going to draft meetings for 30 years, and they're always looking for these big hulking first basemen and these Dick Stewart, Frank Howard guys. And I'm looking around, and I've met Henry Aaron. He's got incredible forearms, but he's not a big man. Carl Yastrzemski came by when his son was around. I guess that was his grandson was around, and he's not very tall. But as Mike said, his forearms are this big, and they stay that big all the way down. Willie Mays is what, 5'10". Mickey Mantle's like 5'10". I actually played in a barnstorming group with Harmon Killebrew. I couldn't believe how short he was. And of course, the first time I met Reggie Jackson, because he came into our weight room to work on the weights before we had 2 weight rooms, I couldn't believe how short he was. So you don't need to be 6'6", 260 to have. It's a game of quick hands and incredible forearms, if you know what I mean. And I think, look at Jimmy Rice. His forearms are like Popeye, aren't they?
Right. Oh, and so you look at guys like Dempsey, who was a really good Major League Baseball player, MVP World Series '83. And, I was on an elevator next to him and I didn't realize it was him until I saw his face. He didn't look like a professional athlete. I mean, and nothing was out of shape. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. If there's ever a baseball came to decide the fate of the earth against the aliens who invade us, I'm putting Frank Robinson on my team.
Right,
okay.
Right.
And if you ever met Frank Robinson, if he shook your hand, you were lucky to get it back. I mean, his hands were like vice grips. Okay. And they were huge. And I have a feeling that helps you swing a 38-ounce bat. And when Willie Mays passed, I heard a number of players say he had the strongest hand they'd ever met. So it's not just your biceps or how good you look with your shirt off. To me, it's all in your hands.
All right, last question for you, and it goes to what we started talking about. When I think of athletes performing while they're injured, of course, we all think of Gibson and the World Series again, and the home run in the 9th inning, and Lasorda and everybody running around the field. Or some of us that are older remember Willis Reed, hobbling down the court in the NBA Finals to win for the Knicks. There's probably a lot of people that we don't know of. Is there somebody that sticks out in your mind that just had the kind of guts and wherewithal to play through an injury and still produce at a high level?
Well, I would say Cal probably fits that. His back was bothering him a lot later in his career, and he never missed anything. Yeah. And he didn't come to the training room, but he struggled with that back for a bit. And as you know, he eventually had back surgery. But Cal never complained and was certainly probably the toughest guy I ever saw. Just did it on his own. He just did it like a gentleman that he is, and played through. Because my wife's had spine surgery, so I know about it. And he played great, not up to his max perhaps, but he played great when he was struggling with that back right up until he finally gave in to have the surgery.
There was a story, and I don't know if it's apocryphal, that when there was that brawl when Messina was on the mound and he ran in to kind of protect his pitcher, he got hurt. And he told Kelly the next day, I don't think I can play. And she's like, I'm not going to hear that. I've been listening to this stuff for 15 years. You're going to go play. And he did. He went out and kept the streak going. It's remarkable. And I think what's remarkable for most of us is to learn, that your relationship with these guys is not just the hands-on physical. It's also, there's an emotional part to it too, just getting them, getting their head right into getting through these injuries. Cause that's gotta be hard when you're a professional athlete and you can't do your thing. And I would imagine you took a lot of pleasure in being able to see these guys you worked with continue at that level.
Well, I think that's true. I've heard the Cal Ripken story. I believe, though, there's one step you're missing. You have to check this, but I'm pretty sure Cal said he could not have played the next day, but there was a rainout. And so he got a day off. And then I've heard the rest of that story. I've never asked him if it's true or not true, but I believe he did get a day off, because I think he has said he probably couldn't have played that. No, it's very rewarding. And you have to get the players' trust. I did it differently from most team doctors, since I did not want to do their Tommy John surgery. And I think that really made them feel comfortable with me. I said, look, if you need this, I'd go to Jim Andrews or Lou Yoakum. They are, to me, the best in the country. I don't do enough that I feel I'm the right person from you. So I wasn't looking to make my career on them. So when they would come to me, I think they were very honest in understanding that I just wanted to do what was best from them. And if that did not mean that I'd be the treating physician, they knew I would send them to whatever the best solution was.
Yeah.
And that's where the trust comes in.
Last thing, I was just reading this during the podcast, that John Smoltz, the only major league pitcher ever to get Tommy John and make it to the Hall of Fame. I think we'll see more of those in the near future, don't you?
We'll have to have a whole nother talk on the societal problems we have with younger and younger people getting this, and the whole society we could get into the whole societal issue of tub, how it affects sports. And all I say on that quickly is, when I was in high school in the 60s and early 70s, the best 10 kids played football, then they took over the basketball team, then they took over the baseball team, and they gave their bodies a break. Today, kids are becoming one sport athletes at age 10. Right. So you can see where that's going.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Jaden Daniels, the Commanders quarterback, out on the field, you see him, he throws a basketball to warm up. I mean, because it's a whole different feeling, a whole different effect. Dr. Michael Jacobs, you can see him every week on the Bmore Baseball podcast with a What's Up Doc segment. And afterwards, for Overtime, we'll be with you each week as well. Find this, obviously, if you're looking at this, you're already on YouTube. We appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to us. Again, Dr. Michael Jacobs, I'm the producer of the podcast, Chip Franklin. Until next time, stay well.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.